Hello everyone. The topic today we will cover is section 10. Section 10 of CPC. Let us understand section 10 of CPC with an example. Let's say there are two people, Pritam and Dinesh. Let's say a dispute is going on between Pritam and Dinesh about a land property. Suppose the name of the land property is, let's say, suppose XYZ. So a dispute is going on between them because of this land property. Now Pritam is saying that this land belongs to him, and Dinesh is also saying that this land belongs to him. Now Pritam took the matter to D court. The name of the court is D court, let's say. D court. Pritam took the matter to D court by filing a suit, which is a civil court, a civil suit. Here, let's say the matter is going on in the D court, and as the litigation processes, the proceedings are lengthy and continuing for a prolonged time. Let's say the case is continuing in the D court for 10 years. The ownership issue of the land could not be sorted out. Now both Pritam and Dinesh, let's say, are very much worried about the case, as both of them are claiming the ownership of the land. Now Pritam thinks that this D court is taking a long lengthy process. So Pritam decided to file the case in another court. Now suppose Pritam goes to K court. The name of the second court is K court. Now Pritam goes to K court, let's say, and then files the case where? In K court. Files the case in K court by the presentation of plaint under section 26 of CPC, order 4. Now both in D court and K court, the proceedings are going on for the same subject matter. Under section 10, K court is not having the right to proceed more with this case, because in the D court the process of proceedings is getting continued. The case is still pending. Where? In the D court. Because this case from the beginning is pending in which court? In D court. So what K court will do here? K court will stop the proceeding here, because the same case with same subject matter is pending in which court? In D court. This is what section 10 of CPC is all about. Now see, section 10 of CPC says, now let us make it more clear here. We will try to understand the conditions for the applicability of section 10. The first condition is that there must be two suits. What is the first condition? The first condition is that there must be two suits. One previously instituted and the other subsequently instituted. So what is the first condition here? I am repeating this again. There must be two suits. One previously instituted and the another one subsequently instituted, subsequently filed. Like what happened in the example that we have discussed. The case was filed, the case was instituted in which court? In D court. Then in K court also, the same case with same subject matter was instituted, was filed. Now the second point, the second condition. The second condition is that the matter in issue in the subsequent suit must be directly and substantially in issue in the previous case, in the previous suit. Like, to make it simple, like the suit which has been instituted, which has been filed in the K court, that is the second court. The matter in issue of that second suit or case must be present in the previous suit also, directly and substantially. The previous suit was filed where? The previous suit was filed where? In the example that we have cited, it was filed in D court. So the matter in issue of the subsequent second suit must be directly and substantially same. Must be directly and substantially same to that of the previous suit, to that of the previous case. And the third point, the third condition is that both the suits must be between the same parties or their representatives. Here in the example, the name of the parties were what? Pritam and Dinesh. The parties should not change in the subsequent suit. Okay. Even if the subsequent or the second suit is instituted by their or through their representatives, like in the example that we have cited, let's say the representatives of Pritam and Dinesh, then also the principle of res sub judice will be applied in this regard. Next condition, that is the fourth condition. Now the fourth condition is that the previously instituted suit must be pending. That is the decisions has not been given by the previous suit. The decision has not been given in the previous suit. I am repeating this again. The fourth condition. What is the fourth condition? The fourth condition is that the previously instituted suit must be pending. Underline it, must be pending. That is, the decision has not been given in the previous suit. Pending where? Pending in the same court in which the subsequent suit is brought, or pending in any other court in India, or it may be pending in any court beyond the limits of India, that is outside India. In any court, pending in any court beyond the limits of India, which is established or continued by the central government, or it may be pending before the Supreme Court. Okay. Then comes the fifth condition. What is the fifth condition? The fifth condition is that the court in which the previous suit has been instituted must have jurisdiction to grant the relief claimed in the subsequent suit. Which means what? Which means the court in which the suit has been instituted in the beginning, that court must have jurisdiction. That is the previous court. The previous court must be a competent court. That is, the previous court must be a competent court to try the suit, to grant the relief which has been claimed in the subsequent suit. Which means the next condition, the sixth condition, is that the parties in the suit must be litigating under the same title in both the suits. The parties in the suit must be litigating under the same title in both the suits. Now, as soon as these conditions are satisfied, so you see the parties in the suit must be litigating under the same title in both the suits, like so and so versus so and so, like this. Okay, the title of the case. As soon as these conditions that we have discussed, as soon as these conditions are satisfied, the court cannot proceed with the subsequently instituted suit, since the provisions contained in section 10 is mandatory and no discretion is left with the court. the order staying proceeding in the subsequent suit can be made at any stage. And you see the explanation attached to section 10. The explanation attached to section 10 makes it clear that in foreign court, if the suit is pending there, in the foreign court, on the same cause of action, the courts shall not be precluded. That is, the courts shall not be stopped from trying a suit in this regard. As the explanation to section 10 makes it absolutely clear that the pendency of a suit in foreign court doesn't preclude the courts from trying a suit founded on the same cause of action. Now let us try to understand what is the object of section 10. Object. See, the object of this section is to prevent two courts. The object of this section is what? Is to prevent two courts of concurrent jurisdiction. Now see, concurrent means that two different courts have the authority to hear the same case. So the object of this section 10 is to prevent two courts of concurrent jurisdiction from simultaneously trying two parallel suits in respect of the same matter in issue. In respect of the same matter in issue. Because see, why it is so? Because if one court gives decision in favor of the plaintiff, let's say, and the other court gives decision in favor of the defendant, then it will create what? Then it will create legal havoc. So section 10 is preventing all this. Moreover, the precious time of the court will also be wasted. So section 10 is preventing all this. Okay. The policy of the law is to confine the plaintiff to one litigation. This is the policy of law. This obviates, that is, this prevents multiplicity of suits, the multiplicity of cases, and also prevents the possibility of contradictory verdicts, the contradictory decisions by two or more courts in respect of the same relief. Now see, we have to keep this in our mind that the principle of res sub judice in section 10 is talking about the pending case in the previous court. It is talking about what? It is talking about the pending case in the previous court. See, if the previous court has already given the decision, then if the second or the subsequent suit is initiated in the subsequent court, then here the principle of res sub judice will not be applicable. Here the principle of res judicata will be applicable, which we will cover in section 11. Res judicata. See, res sub judice deals with pending cases only. Res sub judice deals with pending cases only. And res judicata, it deals with decided cases. Res judicata deals with decided cases in the previous court. By res sub judice, the cases are stayed, but through res judicata, when the suit is instituted, it is stopped immediately. In res sub judice, after the suit is instituted, it is not prevented as per section 10. In res sub judice, after the suit is instituted, after the suit is filed, it is not prevented as per section 10 of CPC. The suit which has been instituted will be stayed or will be postponed or stopped in res sub judice, because the case is already pending in another court. But in res judicata, the case which is already judged, upon which the decision has already been given, that case, if again raised, it will be prevented from getting instituted. It will be prevented from getting instituted in res judicata. Now we will discuss some important points related to section 10. The first point, section 10. See, section 10 only bars the trial not the institution of the suit. I am repeating this again. Section 10 only bars the trial, not the institution of the suit. Which means what? Which means the trial of the case here, will be prevented. It is said to the court that don't try it further. The trial must be postponed. Stayed or stopped. That is the proceedings of the suit to be stopped or stayed. See, section 10 doesn't say not to institute the suit. Section 10 doesn't imposes bar on the institution of suit. This is very important thing to remember. And the second point is that the second thing to be kept in our mind is that according to section 10, the court cannot dismiss the case, cannot dismiss the suit. Only proceeding of the suit can be postponed. Only proceeding of the suit can be postponed or stayed or stopped, but cannot dismiss the suit. The third point here is very important. It is the next point. It is that section 10 doesn't empower any court to stay any proceeding which is pending in other court. So section 10 does not empower one court to stay the proceedings of another court. Here an important case law, this 1925 decision, the official receiver versus Palani Swami case is important. The link has been shared in the description box. And the fourth point here is the next point, which is important here, is that the High Court is having the power. The High Court is having the power to stay the pending suits of its subordinate courts. See, this inherent power, we will call it inherent power. This inherent power has been given to the High Courts by section 151 of CPC. 151 of CPC. I have shared the link of it in the description box. There is also another inherent power that apart from section 10, in other situation also the suit can be stayed, like if any suit is an abuse, let's say is an abuse of its process. So in that situation also the court has this inherent power to stay such suit. The next point is an appeal cannot be filed if a suit is stayed under section 10 of CPC. If under section 10 of CPC, if under section 10 of CPC the suit is stayed, then no appeal can be done. And this was discussed in PC Jairath versus Mrs. Amrit Jairath case, 1966 decision. It was also held that if under section 10 order has been passed related to jurisdiction of a court, then a petition for revision can be entertained. And then next point, if we have to keep this in our mind, that section 10 of CPC is a rule of procedure. Section 10 of CPC is a rule of procedure. See, if a decree is passed in contravention of section 10, then it will not be regarded null and cannot be disregarded in execution proceedings. And it was held in this Shiopat Rai versus Gorakhchand 1919 decision. And then the next point, we have to keep this in our mind, that section 10 can only be applied upon suits. Section 10 can only be applied upon suits. Suit means a civil proceeding instituted by the presentation of plaint under the section 26 order number 4 of CPC, which simply means that section 10 will not be applied upon those proceedings which are not suits. And it was held in Inderpal Singh Hassanwalia versus Bir Tibetan Woolen Mills 1974 case. Okay, so we will discuss all this. Section 26, what is section 26, order number 4 of CPC. Okay, we will discuss in the coming lectures. We will discuss. Don't get confused. Okay, so we have to also keep this in our mind that if subsequently the suit that has been filed, if it is a summary suit under order 37 of CPC, then upon that section 10 will not be applicable. Okay, the order 37 also we will cover. Okay, in the coming lectures. Summary suit and all these things. The next matter in issue. Matter in issue in section 10 CPC means the entire matter in controversy and not one of the several issues in the case. Which means what? Which means the total entire matter has been discussed here. If let's say, I'm just citing one example here, okay, to make it clear. Let's say A and B, if they have filed a suit in a court and seeing the prolonged pending time in giving decision, they file the case again in that court, or let's say in another court. Then whatever was there in the matter in issue, that matter in issue in the subsequent suit must be present. It should not be like this, that from these issues only some points which were there in the previous suit have been taken in the subsequent suit. See, a mere identity of some of the issues in both the suits is not sufficient to attract the section, this particular section, there is section 10. In the previous instituted suit, the issues which were present, if only some one or two issues are there in the subsequent suit, then section 10 will not be applicable in such matters. The matter in controversy should be entirely present in the subsequent suit also. Then only section 10 can be applied. Okay. Thank you.